bad.
We're back. We're back. We're still here. Still afloat. Welcome back, everybody. It's Wednesday afternoon on DeltaFi. Your panel here with, on your left, Robbie Levy in the house, president of Hxro Games, Inc., Crypto Messiah, Gunny, and myself, Random Task, RT, back in the studio after what might have been the most savage shakeout we've ever seen in crypto mid-bull market, if it wasn't the top, which I think everybody on this panel is somewhat in consensus that it is likely not the last we will hear from crypto this year, which makes it the single largest drawdown in history. Now, of course, none of us really know what's going to happen, but looking around to my left, there's nobody. But over to my right, I see a few guys here who bought the dip. How are you guys feeling today about that dip buy? What are your thoughts?
So far, so good.
Yeah.
Let you know in another 24 hours.
At 4 a.m., it was looking great. We were up, coming with striking distance of 41,000. We had a 4 handle, and then quietly proceeded to steadily sell off, only 7% from the morning high. I mean, in what people say is a quiet day.
Yeah, cool 7% drawdown, no big deal.
It's a volatile market. Holy shit.
Yeah. Where's Bitcoin Vol trading right now?
It's like 120% at the money for the stuff that expires like Friday. The weekly stuff is right around there. Ethereum's like 140%.
All right, Rob, so maybe explain that to people, what that means.
It means we gonna move. It's so
there ain't no bids, there ain't no offers.
It means we gonna move. That's like implied volatility is one of the parameters in pricing options. So it kind of like it's a way to compare the value, the risk that's priced in this market at any given time. And it's annualized, so you can kind of compare 7-day volatility, stuff that expires in 7 days, to stuff that expires in 30 days, to 90 days. So it's all annualized, and you can just see exactly what risk is priced in this market via options. And 150% for Ethereum vol right now, it means that you can almost expect like an 8% move every day. If something's moving 8% in price every day, it's moving. I mean, it's pretty insane. So, and we could tell. I mean, the markets are illiquid right now. They're thin. You know, it just means that it takes less money to move it more, right? So little amounts of money, orders here and there, are moving it more than they normally would. And that just means that if someone really has an axe, things going to move right now. A lot.
So it's vulnerable.
Yep.
And, what I'm seeing in many ways fits TA, pull back into reload zone, tap support, buy it back. There's a lot here. You could just say, okay, this is kind of like not that unusual, but when you look at a dollar amount drawdown, it's impossible to not feel something. I think that goes for just about anybody who had significant holdings. As we went through Sunday, might have been the bleakest I have ever seen. And like that, I love the crypto fear and greed index. I don't know exactly how they calculated, but clearly they're tied together. And 10 is the lowest I saw on the weekend. I was sitting here, hour after hour, just kind of looking down Twitter. I was like, my God. Even the people who
like you're supposed to just trade against it.
Basically. And that's what I was saying, on Twitter on Sunday. I said, look, if I can't buy Bitcoin on weekly support in a bull market when the fear and greed index is at 10, then what the fuck am I doing here? And with that tweet, I kind of just said it, and then I was like, yeah, right? And then I went and picked up a couple more. And not the best dip to buy, as it turns out. Bitcoin did not bounce back nearly as hard as things like other favorite coins of mine, Matic, Ethereum. I fucked it up even when I bought the dip. But you got to expect the things performing the best going into it were likely the things to bounce back harder. I chose Bitcoin because I felt like it was the safer, slightly less volatile play. But hey, it's up a bit.
It is really interesting, because I distinctly remember the emotions that I was going through on that Sunday. Just waiting for that weekly close. I had a feeling that, if there was a bounce that, we'd be getting it sometime soon. And I'd never seen crypto Twitter was in full freak out mode, and I think a lot of the participants, at least that we're exposed to in crypto Twitter, went through that 2018 bear market, have that severe PTSD. So there was a lot of questioning. Is this over? Are we going to continue, or are we idiots?
Are we done?
Are we done? Did we get fucked again? Are we going to sit here for 3 years, and not make any fucking money and lose all of our gains and things like that? It is really interesting because, the Bitcoin dump, for those of you that watch this show, we had been talking about 2 weeks ago. The CPI report came out, Consumer Price Index reports, and Rob mentioned that that was not good for risk assets, and we saw the situation to where after that report came out, which we already saw the stock market took a bit of a hit, no matter what index you're looking at or whatever. But after that report came out, there was just constant FUD surrounding Bitcoin. Elon Musk, of course, became the biggest villain in crypto, from the biggest hero in crypto. I mean, almost instantaneously. We had this new narrative emerge that, Bitcoin is destroying the environment, which is something that's been disproven time and time again. But it doesn't matter if it's been disproven when that's the public perception of this, because, imagine being some kind of institution that has been interested in adding Bitcoin to your balance sheet, and all of a sudden, adding Bitcoin to your balance sheet becomes a PR nightmare. So you're destroying the environment now. And then China bans Bitcoin again, but this time it's actually kind of real. We've seen China ban Bitcoin 8 times before, but this time China banned Bitcoin, and it's my understanding that they didn't ban Bitcoin. What they actually banned were certain financial institutions from transacting in and interacting with crypto. And then they banned the mining of Bitcoin with dirty energy, non-renewable energy. So the interesting thing is, we had just bad news after bad news after bad news after bad news after bad news. And of course, Bitcoin was already a bit exhausted. You had traditional finance markets tanking. But with this China ban, over 30% of Bitcoin's hash rate, which is a significant number. We're talking about the hash rate that secures the Bitcoin network. What makes it valuable is the security behind the network. Went offline. And then, of course, you see the carnage, and we're just all kind of sitting there, watching in disbelief. I'd never thought that Bitcoin was going to dip into the 20Ks. I mean, that was just absolute absurdity to me. It's almost like we lived an entire bear cycle in a week.
How long did it take us to get
your echo
in the shit? How long did it take us in the last run to sell off 50% from 2017 or what was it, January, February 2018 peak?
And I know that first dip was pretty brutal. And that was the blow off.
Yeah, and then we went back to 14K or something, and then just kept shitting the bed. We were in a downtrend at that point, right?
Yeah, I mean,
it went down 70% in 1 month.
Yeah, that 6,000 spike low fee was February 5th or 6th or 7th. So it was, yeah.
So Novogratz went on Twitter and was like, "I'm buying," and then the market just fucking was lightning back up again.
And then it doubled, to 12. So
yeah,
I mean, I was kind of sitting there thinking, we've just dropped 50%. This is kind of what a lot of people want, right? When you see the big drawdowns, you're like, can we just get this over with? Can we just nuke it? Get it done quick. Give us a spring. We saw that last Wednesday. That was actually before our show last week. And, I was sitting here talking about putting the bottom in on Bitcoin, 29, 150 on FTX. And then it bounced up, had sort of a complacency bounce on the hourly, and then dropped again into the Sunday and Saturday. And that, I think, Rob, you tweeted something out to this effect. It just looked kind of like a low liquidity, boring moment where, it wasn't really selling off. There was just no bid. There was just no one really there. It's like, why would we bail out these depressed, fearful retail traders on the weekend if we're the big stock boys coming in on Monday? Let's wait till Monday. And that's sort of what I was looking at coming into the week. I said, let's see what the bid looks like into the week. And they showed up. They showed up right at weekly support. Go figure.
They're there. There's money ready to come into this thing. I mean, Andreessen Horowitz just raised $1 billion new fund to invest in crypto and blockchain stuff. There's 600 million here. There's 400 million there. There's money that is being allocated, that will be allocated to this. I'm not concerned really deep down at all. What's concerning is the actual emotion and instability of like the market participants, and it's really kind of on the lower level, right? Like we happen to be people. I'm one. My like wormhole, my connection to the crypto market is through Twitter, and I mean, obviously, I speak to other people now on Telegram and all that, but Twitter's like the pulse. You're on the pulse all day, every day. You got your fucking phone on. You're just following Twitter, and like crypto Twitter was as low and as like negative and pretty much just like dead as I've ever seen it. It was the most negative. It made you feel like the fucking world literally fell apart, and you could.
Let's flip to chart, Johnny. And you know what I think played into that a little bit was, and we had talked about this a couple times, that there was this kind of baked in assumption that this is 2017, and the top might, there will be a bubble, it will top out, but it'll be later this year. So everything, I think a lot of people were not taking profit. Maybe a little of that bear market PTSD had them paying themselves in things like December and January and February. But of course, then it was, oops, long and strong, I'm a bull. This is our bull market year. And so when that, what you want to call it, rug in the market came in at 50% across the board or more, I think it really shook people. I mean, it totally rocked their whole perception. And then, of course, it's, oh, dear God, did I do it again? Did I just watch my whole thing go, Can
I just, was this does everybody agree that this was a retail liquidation? Was there any part of it that...
What did we do? We liquidated what, 20 billion?
This was a liquidation of not just retail, but there was some higher level retail, lower level kind of pros who absolutely got fucking rinsed.
But
I think every single platform had an issue one way or another. I think what it really reminded me of, to be honest with you, and was me sitting at my desk as an automated market maker in options, and I also spent years in the pit, but it reminded me of like that feeling when the market is going absolutely bananas, and if you were making markets over the screens just electronically, you press the button, pull my quotes, I'm stepping out of this thing and just gonna watch, right? I'm not putting any money at risk.
Yeah.
And it was so clear to me watching the markets on especially the derivatives exchanges, which they happen to do the majority of volume, the offshore exchanges. And it was like the amount of true liquidity providers was cut by 90%. And whoever was left was just so wide and so illiquid, they weren't stepping in front of anything. So the stuff was moving down on literally no volume. I'm talking about altcoins.
Yep.
It was like you were begging people to turn the machines on.
There's also some things like embedded in crypto market microstructure now with with how pervasive derivatives are and leverage and like the concepts. And I think we talked about this in the last show about like the idea of like being able to collateralize on like a shitcoin perp or future with other shitcoins. And especially when you have a situation where you have this big down move, like everything correlates to one, right?
Yep.
So suddenly the things that you're using to leverage to collateralize your positions are getting taken from you. And like the market's not like, that's not like Sam going, like Alameda going, like, or FTX going, like, hey, we're going to go give this to Alameda. This is like them going, like, we need to raise cash because this account needs to fund customer seg in order to pay out the other accounts that are on the other side of it. So you're getting taken out, and like that cascading. I mean, that's fucking flash crash. That's 2008, like all over again.
It was a
same thing.
Exactly like a low volume flash crash, and it's also, think about you use that Alameda example where they have to just move cash to cover spots. Maybe just because the trade is so good two-way, they need to up their inventory of collateral on different places. But think about the people who they felt they missed the boat on certain coins that they just missed. They wanted to own, but by the time they even could blink, the thing had 5x'd, and they just weren't going to buy it. And it's like your favorite gems that you wished you owned now are at prices that you probably didn't believe you'd be able to get again. And all of a sudden you're making a sushi buy at $6, right, Dan? Like, and
exactly.
Like,
it's insane. I can't believe I'm getting these things.
I'm selling out of this, and I'm finally gonna get to buy my sushi at $6 that I missed.
And the play is like, yeah, exactly. Like the play is like everything is gonna get rinsed and cheap, and the wrong things are getting cheap.
Yeah.
And that's where your opportunities are gonna come from. And like the things that like getting Solana at like $19 was insane. Getting sushi at $6, insane. How about FTX going to $22? Like FTT, like insane.
Yeah, that's the one I was watching.
So,
and
they
don't belong at those valuations, at those
but
prices.
It's that whole, then it's the psychological gymnastics of holy shit. Everything is like, this is the best fucking sale ever. Everything is 60, 70% off. I can't even fathom the prices here. What do I want? You know, like, and am I going to buy this? Am I going to buy that? Well, I need to free up some cash to do this. Is Bitcoin the thing because it's all of a sudden 30,000 and I never thought I'd touch it there again? Or are you going for the altcoins that like you think have that extra juice in it? I mean,
I like these rinses because I don't want to see like. There's just shit coins that just have no business having valuations that they did. Like, there's obviously the meme coins.
Yeah, they don't bounce back. They don't bounce back.
They're dead. They should be dead.
The crazy thing about markets is the ability for them to provide you those entries at the exact moment when you feel way too poor to ever buy them. Right? I think a lot of people, and we talk about this all the time. It's my little slogan at the end of the show. I say, always play from a position of strength. I mean, yeah, of course I will. What am I, stupid? Of course I am. But what that means is you have to sit out sometimes. For example, the last month where things were a little insane, they were a little overbought, they were heated. I was having trouble finding entries because I don't like to buy things that are up 5,000%. But so you have to sit there and essentially miss and pass on that. And playing from strength, and people tell you, well, it's patience. You got to be patient, holding your positions, waiting for your positions, and then they come in, and that's exactly why. Because instead of sitting there staring at a 6-figure drawdown, you're sitting there licking your chops, saying, "Sushi 6, Solana sub 20, Bitcoin sub 30."
That's trading.
Please.
You got to cycle. You got like whatever your time frame is. You got to cycle. You got to always be kind of like we call it. Like you have that long-term position, kind of like gamma scalping around it. Getting, bringing the cash register on things and just making sure that you have some cash on the side. Because when you don't, it's a fucking pretty helpless feeling.
I will tell you, Gunny, and I've traded with him for years. Gunny is a guy who he always has dry powder, and he's like hammered that home. He is great at that, and I think it's the most important in crypto because you almost always get a correction that is deeper and sharper than you think is coming. And that actually, in retrospect, is the best time to get in. If you always said, I'm going to make one trade every year, just one day I'm going to trade, you've gotten that crazy sell-off that goes deeper, faster, harder, that if you have your whole stack ready to deploy, it's the best trade of the year. And usually it can be quick too, but even if it's not, like those are the times when you just need to have dry powder.
I just feel like crypto specifically where it is, and it's like been like this forever because it's so wrapped tightly around shit like crypto Twitter, is like just this massive fucking herd of over leveraged sheep that just move in herds, and you get some big guys that come in, and like there's some really big traders in there, like, and that level of like groupthink sends things heavily one way, heavily the other way. There's kind of like no middle ground, and it ends in fucking blood, or in like spectacular up moves. Well, always the same, right?
Let me ask you.
Yeah, very emotional.
I mean,
market.
You've traded the most different markets, and you have the most knowledge about all the different areas. But doesn't this phenomenon happen everywhere? Aren't there leveraged traders and over leveraged traders like in FX and in stocks?
Oh yeah.
Aren't they everywhere? It's not just crypto, right? I mean, they're everywhere.
Everywhere. Well, derivatives, spot markets now, like margins just easier than ever to get your hands on, especially in crypto. And like, I don't think collectively that people are like doing stupid over margining. Like my tendency is, and this is purely like just a guess, is that the average probably like margin for a trader is somewhere between like 5 and 8x. So it's not crazy, but like it happens everywhere. I mean, I've traded natural gas during a polar vortex, and like it makes this look like fucking like a turtle walking down like a beach. Like it is pretty nasty. And like you've obviously been in like similar situations, and it happens in every market, and it really is like every market. To me, it's just more or less every market gets so heavily one way. Yeah. And then you get people that just like have they're on the wrong side of it. They're psychologically just like fucking defeated. And it happens to all of us. And like, they just got their head down, and they're just like smashing the button and like getting in, getting out. Like they're aping out as well. And when you ape out, like you're going to that cascading effect, especially in crypto, and especially because there's no concept for an exchange of like an intermediary, of like an FCM or a prime broker, or like an exchange bond that has to be put up to cover losses of a large customer. Like that doesn't exist. So these exchanges have to protect themselves like no other, because otherwise they're going to be footing the bill for your losses. And
I will say one thing. I think the situation in margin trading in crypto is magnified, because the one thing about crypto is that for the most part, it's the most transparent industry, right? Like you can get free data 24/7 from crypto exchanges. You can get the feed of liquidations from crypto exchanges. Name me another market on earth where you can see the actual customers who are getting liquidated on the amounts on the specific contracts in real time. Like, fuck no, you can't see any of that shit in FX trading, which is like the biggest market that people trade retail around the world. You can't see any of that stuff. I mean, we're seeing this in real time. Right. You're following BitMEX Rect. You're seeing all the liquidations. This isn't the only market with a problem of margin trading and leverage trading. But the thing is, you feel it and you see it in real time. And so it really brings that magnifying glass on it. And you read a couple of headlines, and I'm like, I wonder if that was priced in or part of this. It's like, oh, good luck with the SEC approving an ETF now. Look at this fucking bullshit led by the offshore derivatives markets. And then you start to think, well, maybe $5,000 worth of Bitcoin's price is people thinking it's a 90% chance that an ETF is going to be approved this year. Right. So if you take that out, is that $5,000 off the price? In reality, there is some amount that got chopped off the price because of that perceived value in whether an ETF will be approved. I mean,
that's a great way to trade, actually. Like there's that, like at least in the legacy markets, you kind of, like markets kind of remember where prices are at, especially like when you got into things like interest rate markets, or like it, or especially like in the short end of the curve when you're dealing with like Fed, like what the Fed's going to do. And you kind of get this concept of like the market was here, the market repriced expecting an event to happen. And like if that event doesn't actually happen, it theoretically should just go back to where it was. It will most likely go further because you're going to get the people puking. Yeah. But it'll end up back in that range. And then it's kind of like we were just talking about, like with weekend trading, where like you're watching what's going on in the market, you're shitting your pants, and it's like Sunday, and like they're just pounding you a new asshole. And then suddenly at like, when it all kind of quiet down, you're like, wait, we're down like 3%. Like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, how often does the CME close and then on Monday it's right back wherever? You know, the nice pump on the weekend, and then the Monday opens and they bring it right back to where they closed, and, you know, business as usual.
That's right. That's right.
It's remarkable. I had a bit of a learning experience, you know, for anyone watching. I'm sure there's a lot of people watching who are like, God, I wish I could be this easy breezy with these kinds of dips. Like, listening to you guys talk right now, Rob and Dan, I'm sitting here like, man, you guys, you know, this happens. You don't panic. You look at it. You say, that's a deal. I'm going to pick. Like, you get to a point, obviously, at your stage in your careers as traders now, obviously building a product. But to share my own experience with this, because I've been around now 3-4 years, and I didn't always have, you know, this weekend, I think I feel like I nailed it a bit more. But in the past, and it took years to actually be prepared with some dry powder for these moments, and then not freak out about it. I was glued to my screen on Sunday, not as much out of fear. I felt it, but more out of like, I called my cousin. I said, dude, let's like get on the phone right now. Let's look through all the charts. Let's find something, because there's no way that this doesn't snap back to some degree this week. And just the snapback trades here, arguably one of the highest probability trades you could take. Because even if, and I kept saying, is like, even if it's a bear, if it's going to be a bull the next few months, it's going to bounce. There's going to be an argument. And I had the LTO trade up here because it's the one that I took, and I just had a bunch of Bitcoin. That's what I was kind of buying the dip with. And, you know, some guys over at TRI are really bullish in this one. They said fundamentally this and that. So I was like, okay, so I snapped some up at this low support, and we just auto set our asks for, you know, 20%, 30%, 50%. And they've already almost all filled. And so for anyone watching, if you didn't do something this week that, you know, you're like, oh, I nailed it or whatever, just take notes, learn from this, you know, wait for some more mania someday, some market, there will be mania back at the market, pay yourself, have that dry powder ready, trust your plan. And the next time you see everyone puking on a Sunday, you know, get hungry and start looking around.
Messi, what's going on?
It takes years.
Oh, nothing. I'm just watching Ethereum pump, watching, you know, Ethereum Bitcoin ratio increasing. It's you know, Bitcoin looks strong as well. It's just one of those situations. I mean, this whole thing has just been a little surreal. You know, and like I was talking about earlier, you know, there's definitely a possibility that, you know, what we saw would happen was more akin to like a black swan, you know, like we saw in March with COVID. You know, of course the circumstances were different, but, you know, after what happened in March with COVID, you know, there was kind of the same thing in the air as there was right now. Like, this is super bearish, like it's over. And we just kept grinding up, and it just didn't fucking stop. And anybody that sold, anybody that wanted to retest, anybody that wanted that dip, you were left on the sidelines. I mean, you had to just get the fuck in, and you had to ride it. You know, I'm also looking at, you know, SPX and DJI and QQQ, and I mean, there's a lot of strength in the legacy markets right now. You know, I definitely do think that there's a fair share of people that will de-risk on what they consider to be a complete complacency bounce. For me, that looks like probably Ethereum 3200 or something like that. You know, and I think there'll be a fair bit of de-risking there. But, you know, at this point, to be honest, I have no fucking clue what's going on. You know, it's and I think anybody that does say they know what's going on is full of shit, because when you're looking at this and you're looking at the strength of the recovery, you know, a lot of the liquidity in the market has returned. You know, I think open interest has remained relatively low. You know, funding is negative. It's really kind of setting the stage with the bullish catalyst that we have coming in crypto, you know, for some face melting bumps, especially considering that holding, because, you know, if you know me and you follow me for a while, you know that I mainly specialize in Ethereum DeFi. Holding Ethereum DeFi over the past 2 months has had a massive opportunity cost, right? And even the strongest holders then have been tested because hey, I can be invested in these productive assets in the future of France or whatever, and I'm seeing people make millions of dollars in dog money. Like, what the fuck do I do? Like, this is fucking ridiculous. And now you've got this mega shakeout to where literally the last man standing who was going to sell, there's a probability that he has already sold. There's two kinds of people that make the most money in markets like this. One, absolute psychos, which I'm probably more in that category. And two, the new guys. And in every single crypto bull market I've ever seen, it's so frustrating because these new guys come in, they have diamond hands just because they're deer in headlights. It's not because they're trained. It's not because, they know something or whatever. It's just because, hey, I bought this and I'm down, and so I'm going to hold, right? And the new guys end up, the vast majority of times, significantly outperforming the experienced participants. And, also the psychos, the guys that are just up only, I'm going to add, whatever. I didn't have any powder on the dip, but one thing that I did do was I did a lot of cycling my positions around at those lows. So I harvested significant losses down there at the bottom. I've established lower cost bases for a lot of these things. Worst case scenario for me now, it's easier for me to hold because I know that my tax burden has been significantly reduced for this year. So, I can go into the next year. I can look, Uncle Sam's going to rate me regardless, but it's not going to wipe me out anymore. Ew. Uncle Sam, dirty old man.
Dirty old Uncle Sam.
Dirty old Uncle Sam. It is really interesting because even like with Ethereum, we've almost had a full retracement versus Bitcoin. This ETH Bitcoin ratio is insane. And, once again, and I was talking about this in, maybe last week or the week before, but, Ethereum versus Bitcoin literally spent 3 years in an accumulation range. And then we're going to say that after, 3 weeks of breaking out on this range, that Ethereum is done performing against Bitcoin. When we do have real Ethereum level 2s launching, like pretty much right now. Not only that, but we also have EIP 1559. We have proof of stake launching this year on Ethereum, maybe a few months after EIP 1559. I really do think that the Bitcoin narrative at this point has been tainted. And I'm not going to say that Bitcoin's smoked, that Bitcoin's done for, that Bitcoin's not going to make a comeback. It's my theory that we're about to enter a world where, Elon Musk, quote, quote, saves Bitcoin. There's been speculation that he's in the energy business, right? There's been speculation that Elon Musk is going to be doing something around renewable mining of Bitcoin. We've seen guys like Kevin O'Leary, they want this organic, grass-fed, untainted Bitcoin. They don't want to buy the blood diamonds, basically. They want to buy the clean diamonds because those have more value to guys like that. Because if I buy Bitcoin that's verifiably from a sustainable source, then who's going to talk shit? I support clean energy and I support Bitcoin. I support, the freedom to be my own bank, to have my own money. I support, the store of value, all that kind of thing. But for right now, looking at the strength on Ethereum versus Bitcoin, considering this 3-year accumulation range, considering the breakout, and considering, how hard it's fucking bouncing right now, for me, it's really interesting. And I think that this flipping that everyone was talking about, quote, quote, at the top is still very much on the table. And Colin, if you could pull this up, I think you'd find this interesting. If you look at that Ethereum Bitcoin chart on the monthly time frame and you draw that trend line using the candle body method, we've actually broken out of really a 4-year diagonal downtrend for Ethereum. And the most interesting thing about that, before you just say, oh, that's a meme line, right? If you draw that line, just convert it to a line chart and look at it, if you're logarithmic, look at it on linear.
Oh, log. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I go. That's linear.
That's linear. Well, I'm looking at it on Binance. So the interesting thing is, on Binance at least, that same trend line that you've drawn on this chart was the exact bottom, and we've already broken above it for Ethereum, Bitcoin. I'm not sure how.
Oh yeah, there it is. There's just a different close. It looks like on the Coinbase chart that I had up. So I see what you're saying here. Yeah.
So if you draw that and then convert it to a daily time frame, it's
the close changes. Should we adjust it?
no, just
leave it.
Draw
there?
the trend line on the monthly. That's what I'm saying. Before we call this a meme line, if you look at the wick, from that low, you can see that was the exact level of support. 100%. Or change it back to candles.
Candles. Oh, look at that wick.
Bottom line, and Dan and I have been talking about it too. We're hearing from a lot of people, and a lot of people with big pockets and big positions. That's been the talk for a little stretch. It's not a matter of if, but when. They fully believe that the network value of Ethereum is going to flip and overtake Bitcoin. And it's not that crazy of a thought. It's not, and it's not bad for Bitcoin either. The fact that, look at it's more the application layer on Ethereum and the usage. It doesn't have to be a competition thing. And I fucking hate a lot of the Bitcoin maximalists who like, even Michael Saylor, I think he's an idiot and he's going to fucking eat his words for saying
there is no second best coin. What are you talking about? It's only Bitcoin. It's only Bitcoin.
There is only Bitcoin.
It's only Bitcoin. What are you talking about?
Dude, simmer down. Like, it doesn't sound right. You're fucking chill out.
He's something ain't right with him. I like him, and you know what? I think it shows a lot of character, especially because he held this kind of clean mining conference with a lot of the North American Bitcoin miners. He brought on, Michael Novogratz, Elon Musk, like some of the bigger Bitcoin miners, and Elon Musk has just been dragging this dude. Like, he's been posting fucking memes of him, like in a Sailor Moon outfit, and he posted that picture of Michael Saylor like looking in the mirror, like saying, this isn't a bull market, you are a genius, or something like that.
It's just the dude. He's right. He's been right. I love it. He's like, he feels it. He knows. He's seeing the future. He knows Bitcoin's going to be way higher. He gets it. But don't do idiotic things then and say it's the only fucking thing, because it's very much not.
It's extremely narrow-minded.
It's stupid. It's not. I don't get how he's there. I don't understand how he went there. And I honestly feel that way about a lot of maximalists. I don't get it. I think to me, it reminds me of like religion and like this book I read, The End of Faith, which is basically saying people are so narrow-minded about their one religion that it doesn't matter that we're all gonna kill each other and it's over anyway, because we're so crazy about our one line of thinking. That it really is like a religious to me. I love Bitcoin. I feel it in my bones. It's changing the world, but I also understand that so is Ethereum, and so are other layer ones, and so are so many applications and networks. It's so different than there's only one thing that matters. It's crazy.
That's like the biggest irony, of all this for me is, even like with religion, and I'm not a religious person, but, I was raised super Christian, Episcopalian. And, I've done a lot of soul searching, when it comes to religion, and I've done a lot of comparing different religions. And at the end of the day, when you look at everything, everybody is saying the same thing, and we want to act like that all these different religions are so different, but they're really not. They all have the same messages. They all have the same end game. It's pretty much, for the most part, all the same thing. And with Bitcoin maximalism and Ethereum maximalism, even I would imagine at some point there will be Solana maximalism, AVAX maximalism,
it's already starting. Yeah, There's a lot of
there's
SOL,
a lot of guys that are just SOL only, and for good reason, right? Solana has really kicked ass over the last couple of months. At the end of the day, we all want the same thing, though. We want this freedom from government oppression. We want this freedom to be our own bank. We're sick of these guys manipulating our currency, manipulating the value of our currency, debasing our net worths. We're sick of being taxed for wars and bullshit like that. Like, all of crypto serves that same end game. And, the most interesting thing about this is all of these Bitcoin maximalists, they're so flippy floppy and wishy-washy, because the centralization aspect of mining and all of that is something that's being cheered for now. Elon Musk, oh, you're a hero. Oh, you're a villain. Oh, you're a hero. Oh, you're a villain. There's all sorts of flip-flopping surrounding that. Not only that, there's a big movement to have DeFi on Bitcoin now. Whereas in the past, they were like, fuck that. DeFi is bullshit. And then all of a sudden, DeFi starts catching on, and the Lightning Network, that's DeFi now. And, now it's, we're going to have like things like Sovereign, which I believe uses rootstock, which is smart contracts for Bitcoin. It's just interesting to see that narrative shift. And, Bitcoin as a store of value may still be a valid narrative, but, I am questioning, like, they've changed that narrative for Bitcoin so many fucking times now. Bitcoin was money, then Bitcoin was something else, and then Bitcoin is all of a sudden a store of value. How is Bitcoin a store of value if when the stock market pulls back 10%, we have a lot of FUD, Bitcoin dumps 50-something% plus. I don't know how that narrative has any strength anymore. So I am curious, what is this next narrative for Bitcoin? Can we, reinstate the store value narrative? And also, with these institutions and things like that involved, like Wall Street basically owns all of the news outlets. These guys engineer the markets, to my understanding. If they want the markets to tank, then, hey, we're going to load the FUD cannon. We're going to get all the major news outlets to start passing this on.
They even bought the Pope last week. That's what put me over the edge. Is like, really? Pope's getting in on this FUD, like, when it's China, when it's taxes in the U.S. Treasury in China, I'm like, okay, this is kind of normal. Then the Pope hits.
Look, you can say that kind of stuff. You can say that kind of stuff doesn't happen, but it is very interesting to me, at least in the Bitcoin space, where we see guys like Barry Silbert, who I consider to be extremely credible, saying that basically there's one firm, one company, one entity that is behind all of this this cascade of negative Bitcoin news. And people have speculated, a couple of people, to be who he's talking about. One of those, of course, is Tesla, because Elon Musk wants to save the world, and Elon Musk is, going to come in and save Bitcoin.
I think this guy's been watching too much Homeland.
Or Elon Musk bought $1 billion. He bought $1.5 billion of it. No one would do that to their they wouldn't light their book on fire like that. But
well, he's not. He's setting the stage for him to come in and save the world. Number two, the speculation has been that Barry Silbert was speaking about BlackRock as well. So
I read something, or who was
I'm waiting for the expose.
I think Meltram wrote that it was Ripple. Or that was
I've heard that.
That was her guess, was Ripple. And even before that, I did see, he was talking about the energy stuff, but the energy stuff is such bullshit. Think about like traditional finance and how much energy like it is used to fill the offices of the Citigroups, the Chases, the fucking HSBCs, Barclays, everybody. Like that, the energy thing to me is the most fucked up argument around. Period.
It's bogus, but it is having an impact, right? Because now in the normie circles, I was even, just seeing it on social media, people who have no idea about Bitcoin, non-crypto users, and they're just sliding up in people's replies, just being like, yeah, but it's bad for the environment. And so you've lost this, a major narrative right now around the world, which is like, hey, we got this one rock we can live on. Let's take care of it. I agree. I think it's bullshit. When my family, they always text me, say, yeah, but what about the environmental impact?
That's the key. What's important is that people actually believe it, everything they fucking read still. I feel like you have to be in crypto for a few years to understand, like, the amount of like hot air that just gets blown into people's ears, and they just like sitting on the toilet reading it while they're taking a shit one day, and then suddenly it becomes gospel.
The energy narrative is fakaked. But how's this? Let's get to some charts and look at some stuff, some market stuff that like we personally witnessed this last week. Let's look at some of the names that you can see got aggressive buyback. Like bottom line, there are participants in crypto who have made more money than they ever thought they would. There are firms, there are, we see the Wall Street Journal or whatever article about the 3 arrows, Kyle and Sun Tzu and all Suzu. Let's see what the big money people were buying after this dip. I mean, bottom line, and I don't know what kind of big money was buying it, but the most ridiculous chart from this dump to me was Matic. I mean, Matic, after pumping crazy off of what people thought were real usage, and it was real usage. I mean, people are using Matic for DeFi. It's happening, and I think they changed the name to Polygon, but that thing went 6 to midnight like quick. I mean, just left people in the dust, and then it proceeded to dump epic proportions, and it literally turned back around. I mean,
73% drop in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days, and then 230% bounce in 3 days. So, I mean, talk about losing your lunch. If you are not cut out for this, if you want to get rich quick, you got to be willing to get poor quick. And the one thing I would say from a technical perspective for anyone watching today who's just kind of like getting their bearings back in the market, and this is what I was trying to convey on Sunday without, obviously not to a level of confidence. I never want people to just be like, oh, RT said this, I'm going to go buy something. I don't care. Like, don't buy because I said something. But bull or bear, this was a dip to buy. And the real battle, the real debate, the real debate now, is this a bull or a bear? That's going to take place up in these short reload zones. This is the key battleground, and you can draw that on any chart. Matic has arrived first. It was the hottest coin in the market before the dip. It is the hottest coin in the market still. But it's this area where you're going to just, where we're going to find out.
I actually think it's
exactly
going to be
what's coming up in the market.
Sorry if I'm interrupting you. I think my sound is off.
Not at all.
It's asynced right now. I actually think volatility expanded so much that you're probably going to see like the market in this kind of area of like homeostasis where it's kind of just going to like longs and shorts are just going to kind of fight it out. And it's going to take a while to play out before you actually see like, kind of something really build one way or the other. I think we're going to be sitting in a range for a long which would be fantastic. Like,
which is fine if you spot it. If you can see it coming, if you know what it is and trade it appropriately. Trend trading, range trading, two different things. And I'm excited right now because you guys know I'm obsessed with fibs, and these consolidations often play themselves out as fib pong, which is a setup that I came up with earlier this year, and I've really started vetting out and trading. And that's basically where you're just buying the low fib, and then you're trading it up to the short reload zone, and you're trading it back to the reload zone. And if you can start to get into that, that's what I've been my bread and butter. My God, on every time frame, it just works. And if we're going to get into sort of a daily of that, or in this case, the Ethereum 4 hour, it's going to be ugly, right? Because everyone will start declaring the bull is back right up in this short reload zone. And that's where I expect it to reverse, and it'll be short-term bearish for a bit. We'll get washed back down to here. It'll be, the bear is back. I'll be filling bids. If you can see that stuff coming, and I'm right there with you, Gunny, I think that's what we're headed for. It could be a very profitable few months of trading, and we don't even have to go too far.
Sell vol.
So I'm excited. I'm excited, yeah. And we see it all the time. When you have a really strong trend, there's a lot of sort of, everyone's on side. We all know what's going on. And then you just get this nasty smackdown. It often does shock the market into that state for a little while.
But I'll tell you what, like today, right? I wake up and I see, some headlines pushed to my phone, and the headline from CoinDesk of Mark Cuban officially backing Polygon, right? Matic. And I can't tell you how much that means to people who are thinking, should I allocate money to this? Maybe they don't know crypto, but they see, all right, this is the Shark Tank guy. He does his research. He's been really digging in and using and trying and testing crypto apps, DeFi. He's actually participating. And so then, when a billionaire, like when a leader like that, who he knows how to spot value, he knows how to make money, he's taking a big position in Polygon, and who knows how much he put in. Did he put in 10 million bucks? Did he put in 15, 20? Did he put in 50? Who knows? But the bottom line is you get that sort of legitimacy of Mark Cuban buying in, and that's what people need to see, and a lot of normies need to see. So when you're seeing buy-in from these proven billionaires who just know how to make money, it really helps. And I think we're going to see a lot more headlines like this, a lot more.
Me too.
Of like these traditional finance, these older, more experienced studs who start picking names and start allocating money. Like that's an endorsement, and that's fundamentally quite bullish. It means they believe in the team, they believe in it, they're using it. That was a big thing this morning. You got to think that was worth, I don't know how much of the gains today, but it definitely is impactful.
Yep, and if we're gonna head straight to new highs, there's the high time fib extension that really points to $5, which would be insane. But as Messi pointed out on his show last week, if you're sitting on a 2,000% gain, waiting for another 100% gain, you got to learn about rotation. And that, as far as like a trader's life goes, if you just say, you know what, Maddox, the future, I love it, it's my play, fucking sit there and hold it, man, enjoy the ride. But looking for trades, any bags I picked up down here, I've rotated heavily. And I guess the best case for me right now, as somebody who wants to see this consolidation, is this kind of fib pong play out, and then you get that strong continuation, which could take a month.
One more little thing on this. Here's the funny thing. Is like, to me, right, you got Matic, you got Mark Cuban buying in, right? Great. This thing's fucking pumping. It's so strong. I mean, let's look at Solana. People look at Mark Cuban as this name, but how about Solana? What if you had the, Sam Bankman-Fried, Alameda, FTX, then you got the Jump Trading. This is their blockchain of choice to build their oracle to write to the central limit order book on Serum. It's like certain things when put in different lights, they have different impacts. But that's the reason that Solana got so much buy-in, and I think still is undervalued relative to layer ones, is you've got the leaders in the very space that are using these blockchains the most are choosing Solana, right? Or choosing whatever it is. Like that's one of these endorsements, one of these things where they're putting their money where their mouth is, and they're actually using it. They're choosing it to build their own stuff. That's the most powerful signals that you can have to say, you know what, I'm gonna bet with them, right? And also, and I talked about this last week with Solana. It's like if you can compare Solana's valuation or market cap to other layer ones, other networks, and you're looking at it and you're like, wow, it's 4 times cheaper than this, it's 5 times cheaper than that, it's 20 times cheaper than that. And you can buy it and you have that sort of endorsement and that buy-in from who you think are the leaders. That gives you that kind of cosign where, okay, I can push in a little more, a little heavier here. That's where I want to put, place my bigger bets, my 5X units. I'll do 1 unit here, 2 units here. I'm doing 5 units on Solana. That's the type of signal that I look for. If it's relatively cheap comparatively to others, and it's got the fundamentals and the backing that I like, that's the best scenario for me to say, I'm going to go a little bigger there.
Yeah, well, and with the degree of that shakeout, we've got a really good invalidation I mean, we shouldn't go below $19 if this is a bull. And so I can work with that now. And we've bounced up to the EMAs. This as a chart in and of itself, and this is what I'm seeing on a ton of altcoins, this just looks like shit. It's like, oh, we went up, we faked out, we came down, we bearish retested, and now we're just trending down for a bit. I'm not in a huge rush, albeit a little regretful that I didn't go a little harder on some of these because I was in dip buying mode on Sunday, and that was a sick trade, and it is now past as far as just buying the bounce. But for averaging into these things, any dip now above this low from Sunday is just juicy for me. And Solana is near the top of my list for sort of projects that I'm looking at. Layer ones, Matic, another one, Ethereum, another one. I'm getting less and less creative. I think when uncertainty enters the market, I tend to get less creative. I don't look quite as deep into the shitcoin pools at that moment because, like you said, I want to be on side with the big money, the smart money. We always talk about that. So when you say jump trading, I'm like, okay, yep, good enough.
Yeah.
So I'm watching Solana here. I think, fuck. I mean, nobody knows, right? Yeah. And this kind of dump really throws me for a loop sometimes. But if I had to be a betting man, I'd say we're going to consolidate for a little while before anything. And I think that's just because that's going to be what uncertainty looks like on the chart. And so that's the next dip is a buy. The next strong bounce probably a sell if I'm just trying to trade all that chop.
Yeah.
But make no mistake about it. We are in a bull market. We have been in a bull market, and so obviously the big question is, are we still? And again, that kind of debate gets settled above the dips, not in the dips.
That's true.
So it's going to be an interesting few months, and we have a lot more noise cooking up around the 2013 sort of double peak bull market that's being called, and a lot of people talking about it now. And what's your take on that, Messi? Are they grasping at straws, saying, okay, it's not 2017, but maybe it's 2013, or is it all just bullshit, and we should just be trading what's in front of us?
To be honest, as much as I would like to say, hey, this is 2013 all over again, or this is 2017 all over again. This is a totally different market. And when we were in 2017, everybody wanted to make comparisons to previous bull markets. And of course, that bull market was entirely different than all of these previous bull markets. So I don't think that those kind of comparisons do anybody any favors. If anything, we have institutions buying. We have institutions that are liquidity providers now. Like Rob said, when the vol started increasing like crazy, literally all of the liquidity evaporated. And we had this massive fucking dump. When the stock market dumps, it's normally like 3 days of everybody being like, holy shit, this is it. The stock market's going to crash. And then all of a sudden we just grind back up and continue to make new highs. Like, what if that's the kind of situation that we're in right now? Now, of course, in retrospect, we could always look back and we could say, this was just like 2013 or, whatever like that. But, also I know Sue and Kyle took a lot of shit for all this super cycle stuff. What if the super cycle is, hey, vol's going crazy, liquidity's getting pulled, we're going to dump 50% and wash everybody out, and then it's going to continue to grind up again. What if that's what the super cycle means, is that we have true adoption, we have real buyers here. One of the interesting things I've heard as well is that a lot of this cash that's come into the ecosystem is staying in the ecosystem now, because you can do that. You can stay in the ecosystem in stable coins and things like that. And even in 2017, guys, we were still denominating everything in Bitcoin. Bitcoin was the base unit of liquidity for everything, and it's not anymore. In 2017, if you wanted to keep your money in crypto, you had to have your money in Bitcoin, or you had to have your money in some kind of volatile crypto asset. It's not like that anymore. So for me, it's just one of those things. Do I know what the fuck is going to happen? No. I do think I agree with you guys, is that, it doesn't matter if I'm leverage, if you're a bear or a bull, you might get fucked right here. Of course I am biased because this is how I'm positioned, but I do think DeFi stands to do really well over the summer, especially with level 2s launching on Ethereum. That's very healthy for the DeFi narrative, and we are seeing strength in those DeFi charts. And also DeFi is further along in its bear cycle, its micro bear cycle, than a lot of these other assets. So it for me at least feels like, at least this is how I felt, was depression for DeFi. That was the final dip for DeFi. We're going to have this amazing summer. Ethereum's doing very well versus Bitcoin. what typically happens, at least in the last DeFi summer too, is that you have Ethereum perform against Bitcoin, and then that money rotates to DeFi. And then after DeFi summer, that money rotated to Bitcoin. And I think, maybe I'm probably wrong, because like I said, who the fuck knows what's going to happen? But I think that we're going to see something very similar to that. And I think that, in 3 months, we're going to see Bitcoin become not a beacon of clean energy, but we're going to see this, Bitcoin destroying the environment narrative begin to disappear, and really just because you've got these energy guys, mining coalitions, et cetera, meeting and kind of determining, okay, how are we going to push this forward? How are we going to make Bitcoin something that is renewable? I don't care what you fucking say. We all know Bitcoin's bad for the environment. So it's better to rip the Band-Aid off now. It's better to tackle, the China centralization narrative right now and, get that Bitcoin hash rate more spread out, get it more centralized, and also the clean energy narrative right now. Because after that, what's left to fight? Of course, there could be new regulation that hits any moment, but these are the main things right now that I think, at least in the public's eye, are holding the crypto industry back.
Yeah,
I really liked Jack's take on Twitter last weekend. My buddy, he basically pointed that exact same thing out. Crypto is equipped to run on clean energy. You don't have to fix Bitcoin. You got to fix the energy industry.
Of course.
And it's an easy FUD to dispel, right? It's like, 95% of Bitcoin is now done with renewables. Done. Moving on.
Guys, the energy thing is I'm sorry, but I'm just not buying into it. I'm not. We're in a free market society. It's the same type of shit where the cows are the biggest threat to.
You don't think that an institution buying Bitcoin in the midst of this energy FUD is a publicity nightmare?
If you're gonna bow to the green energy type of people on this, I think you're not gonna make it. Personally, that's my opinion. I love the earth. I love everything about it, but there is still, think about India, China, and the growth there, and kind of this is one thing where, how are we're a developed nation. We're in the US, we're in Canada, we're Western, we're super developed. Is it our right to tell India, China, these growing countries who maybe are a little behind us with respect to that growth and the movement from, to just real economic levels, that they can't use fossil fuels for energy the way that we did, and we became, at this level of economic activity? I honestly don't think we have the right to tell them that. All of a sudden, we're telling them, who might be 30 years, 20 years, whatever it is behind us, that you can't do that. Bullshit. The energy situation is going to get solved by free markets, really. And the bottom line here is that still, what Bitcoin represents with its proof of work and the electricity it uses, it's going to play its role in getting to an equilibrium in the market for what energy should be used for and the utility of energy. So I honestly, unless you are, and I do believe that Elon Musk had an issue on the board and all this shit where people are like, you're the steward for, clean energy and for the future and getting us off fossil fuels, yet you're buying Bitcoin and they're burning this much fossil fuel to mine. I honestly think he saw that in the boardroom and he had to do something about it, even though he knows, because he's on the right side of the curve. He's the 180, IQ autist who he gets it. He knows he knows the answer to the problem, but the bottom line is how you get there. The path to it is not going to make everybody happy. So I'm just, honestly, I'm not buying into the narrative of green energy, because it's not in our right to tell underdeveloped people what kind of energy they can use to provide heat for themselves and all this stuff when they're not using any of those things or having those luxuries that we have. And I don't know. It's so much deeper than just, is it a yes or no answer? Is it binary, good or bad? Fuck that. I don't believe it's that.
It's complicated.
Yeah.
But at the bottom line is it is a PR thing at this point. And so I've got to go with Messi on this one. I think there is a lot of PR that can happen, but it is a free market thing. There is no company of Bitcoin. I think everyone would do well if it was cleaner. There's no doubt about it. Am I going to sell my Bitcoin and not participate because China does not regulate their coal industry? No. And I think that if the rumors I'm hearing is that there was a misinterpretation, and in fact, China was basically banning coal-powered crypto mining, then that's actually really bullish. And if we get clarity on that, I mean, make no mistake about it, it was a great FUD narrative. We always said during this bull market, you know, when you're in the heat of the bull at just peak fucking euphoria, which in many ways we were for a little bit just a couple of weeks ago, even though everything wasn't pumping. I think the dog tokens were a sort of form of peak euphoria in the retail sector anyways, with just the total noobs coming in and just buying up whatever, it didn't matter. You sit there and I think to myself, is like, what's going to be the FUD? What's going to unwind this? Because if this is going to be a super cycle, if this is going to be a big bull market this year, we need to unwind. You can't just go, I don't want it to go straight up. You know, it's like Gunny always says, he's like, I get nervous when it's just pure parabola. You know, I want to see a cleanup. And I think a lot of traders wanted to see a cleanup. And it's always like, well, what narrative's going to drive this? How are we going to cool this off? And it turns out that the environmental play, the conversation there, that did the trick.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting. I'm getting pinged by friends who are in like the mortgage lending business, and they're like, yo, have you looked at 30 year? Like it's back down to, 2 7/8 or 2 3/4. You should really, if you're in anywhere above 3.5 or whatever, you should look at it. It's a no-brainer. And you think to yourself, 30-year rates, right, at 2 3/4%. And you think about where we are, and if honestly, if this trend is going to stop or turn around, if the central banks are going to have to start this taper, right? If there really is inflation, so now they have to maybe go against. They've got to stop this easy money policy or pull it back a little bit to avoid an overheating and like too much inflation, and rates are going to rise. It's like, what do you do? What can they do? I mean, this is like the argument against these risk assets are, well, if the Fed's, has to pull back on the easy money and this policy has to reverse, well, good luck to them. I mean, all the central banks, everyone has so much debt out there. You think they're going to be able to service this debt at 5% 30-year rates, at 6, 7, like more normal rates? Not a chance. I mean, not a chance. But the bottom line is, it is a free market. So if big bondholders decide they want to start pounding it and sending these rates higher, then they have to, the central banks have to make decisions. How are they going to kind of control this thing? But, it's hard to think about the super cycle in any other light of what is going to happen with the fiat currencies, right? What's going to happen with central banks globally? They keep buying all this debt. They expand the money supply. That's a pattern. And I think that's the reason why Bitcoin and even crypto and Ethereum is going to be, supposedly harder money than Bitcoin soon also. So that's the reason Bitcoin, Ethereum, like, are the things to own, because they are harder assets. And the pattern of central banks and the position they've got themselves in, it's going to make it very difficult for them to pull back on this and not really cause like a cascading effect to where maybe the fiat, they have to press reset. And when they have to press reset, what does that do to Bitcoin and Ethereum? If anything, it gets elevated even faster than we can think. So I don't know. I mean, I do believe in my heart that if you look back at the old charts of Amazon back in the day, and that little first pump and dump, and you look at where that is on the chart compared to Amazon now, and it's literally indistinguishable. You cannot see it. It is so tiny relative to what has gone on with Amazon. And you can call that the internet valuation in general, that crypto, decentralized network value is going to be so many multiples higher in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years that you need to play the long game and set your future self up, set your kids up. It's a much longer game here to me. That's my personal feeling. We're market participants, so we feel the noise of the 1 minute chart, the 5 minute chart, the hourly chart, the daily chart. But it's the monthlies and yearlies, which we're going to be looking back at and being like, holy shit, you remember that dump from 65 to 30? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we're going to.
Do you remember that Sunday sitting there in your underwear and you thought that everything was going to disappear overnight? And you look back, it's not even a blip. And I was thinking about that on Sunday because, that fear and greed index hits 10. You can feel it. I didn't have to check. I know it's like sub 20. You felt it. And even as a trader who's looking at this as a bullish throwback, I'm like, okay, I should be buying here. Like, I know it feels gross. I look at the P&L drawdown in a few days from my spot holdings. Like, yeah. But I've got to, that's why I called my cousin up. I said, look, get your head out of your ass. We're working today. What are we buying? This is where we buy. Right? Somebody told me this is where you buy. And you're going to look back. I'm with you, man. I think in a few years, it's amazing the emotional swing that will cause. And you'll look back and be like, what happened? I can't even fathom why I was selling those assets at those prices out of fear. I'm more and more year after year, I'm learning that.
We're gamers, baby. We're Chipper Jones. We're playing every day. You're out there playing games 6 days a week. You're playing every day, and that's what we do for the game. But the long game is it's important.
It's incredible, and you really, and I'll go back to this every time I'm on air. You've got to play from strength. One of the things that allows you to play the way you do is you have cash flow, you have an income, you have different holdings, you have dry powder, you take profits sometimes. When you're just in here, and this is sadly the case for most people who just get in, it's your hard-earned money, it's not a whole lot, and you're sitting next to guys on Twitter, wherever, that are making it big every other day, and you feel the need to just lever up or size up or buy up, and then you get shit on, and you have no choice in those moments of those dips. You feel like you'd be irresponsible not to take a little off the table. And that's not the way to think. And being mispositioned or perhaps overly, long is how you end up on the wrong side of the best trades. So I'm gonna go back to it time and time again, but playing from strength really does mean, setting levels, setting bids. And I agree with you. I thought I was going to get left behind on a lot of positions, but then you look at the charts this week and Solana, probably my favorite example of this, right into the reload zone. That's not the one I had up, but let's go take a quick look at that, because this is what it's all about, is having the patience to wait for these. And I mean, look at that. It's what we always talk about. It's, 618, 702s, whatever you want. And I don't know where we go from here. Personally, I think we chop around a bit. Maybe we climb higher, chop around a bit. But if you can train yourself to just be bullish on something, find what you think is going to be the play, and then actually, like, when these come in, it's so exciting as opposed to just like terrifying.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
How about let's pull up Polkadot. Polkadot's one that people love. It's a widely owned asset. People rode that thing higher. A lot of these charts are
right into the 780. Yeah, they do. You know what though? There is some separation on them. DOT looking better than some. None of them looking great. None of them obviously at new highs in an uptrend. In the local uptrend, anyways. I think a lot of this could be looked at as a higher low if this is where we end up making a low. But pretty standard stuff. I was sitting here. I was trading this breakout. I was pretty pissed, man. I got $40 DOT. It broke out on volume. I was like, nice, we're making a new leg higher. And I had to end up eating shit right around break even after it broke into this range. I said, fuck, okay, I'm going to cut it. Actually, that was you and I. We were on there talking about that a couple weeks ago, how the KNC did that to you, right? Broke out on a new range. You're like,
this is the market of fake breakouts to me. I mean, I told you how many times did Adam fuck me? They're all, ZRX fucked me. They've all literally fucked me, because it's just been fake breakout, and we weren't able to, some alts did better than Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin didn't even get the fake breakout and the all-time high, but a lot of alts did because they gained in Bitcoin terms. So you got what looked like just a perfect textbook breakout and just lays the smack down and makes you eat crow. So that's pretty much how most alts look. Like, let's pull up Atom. Atom was kind of that same chart. And I think I said in one of those shows, I was like, I don't know, man, I got PTSD from Atom. It's faked me out too many times. I want to believe
it. Yeah. It went down hard. Just before we leave DOT, I will say that I was really bullish on it. This breakout technically definitely looked good, and the whole Polkadot Dakota coming up last week. But I'm still bullish on it as I was before, fundamentally, for the network value. So I got to, just before we leave this chart, I got to say, my homework this week is to pick some up for my longer positions on a swing basis. So I am looking at DOT as well. Let's take a look at Cosmos. I remember looking at it on the day thinking it looked worse than some. Like it didn't seem to get saved, but same kind of thing. You're coming into the last consolidation, but from the other direction, you're testing it. The buyers stepped in. They responded. They said, yep, we're bullish from $10. We're up 40%, 45%, up to 14.
The best entry you could ask for Atom. Better than look, those previous three where it bounced off that level of demand. This to me looks like you can kind of close your eyes and buy it.
Yeah, and I'd expect to see some chop around down here because, again, that debate is going to be out. Are we a bull? Are we a bear? And we got to clean it up. And if you're a bear, like Messi said, a lot of people he's figure are probably looking to sell bounces here because they're so sick to their stomach, what they gave up. Right, so just say you had 10 grand, you just watch it turn into 4. Well, when it goes back to 7, you're gonna be thinking a little differently, and that's the psychology playing out in this chop that usually follows a huge dump. So today, this week, I don't know if that's the week. If I haven't bought yet, I'm not rushing to buy the 45% pump that comes after the dump. But I'll tell you what, when I can measure wherever we bounce up to with this fib, and wherever that ends up to on this upside, probably gonna look at $17, get this bearish throwback. Any dips that follow that into any kind of pump chaser zone, reload zone, that might be next week, but that's where I'll be looking more aggressively. If I'm not buying the absolute dagger on Sunday, which I did mostly just for Bitcoin, it's buying that sort of lazy drawdown that comes after the bearish retest. That's the next best long I can think of, and that's what I'll be watching.
Let's pull up some others that we've talked about. Like ZRX is one that's.
I was just gonna say, ZRX looks like.
Talk about
sucks.
disappointment, and sometimes like I know ZRX is just one of the most widely used products in DeFi, period, and you see this initial pump that February pump was off a $15 million investment they got into ZRX Labs. So that thing went from 80 cents to 220 and almost 3x'd, and then it really chopped around a lot. But we saw the 100% retrace, did we not? Right there, almost at the bottom here.
Pretty much, right back to when that news dropped.
It makes you think like, I just don't know ZRX. I don't, and I even sent a message on Telegram to Ledger because Ledger and I have kind of been in the same camp. You just think, man, like it's one of the most widely used protocols in any DeFi. You would think that the token would have more demand, but it's a head scratcher, and they fucking just pounded that, but no volume, like no real volume on this sell-off.
Certainly nothing compared to the buy volume that sent it up.
Yeah.
The bears are in control here with the latest highest candle being red, and that's the case on every chart. But when that reverses, and it will probably take some time, you'll see it in volume. What you're going to want to watch for is just a new high in buy volume, and that says, okay, the bulls are back in control. And however long that takes is how long it's going to take. I don't really give a shit. In fact, my buddy was joking the other day. He's like, hey, man, golf season just started. Locally where I'm at, the courses opened up last weekend. I went out and hit a round on Monday. I was like, fuck it. I could use a week off, feeling like I'm just losing out on thousands of dollars every time I don't look at my computer. I mean, that's exhausting. If we're going to consolidate here for a bit, I'm actually probably happy.
Yeah, but I'll tell you one thing that I do, whether right or wrong, it's something I do because I like to take in as much info as I can. But like the smart people I know who have either tweeted about stuff, who have put out reports, who are like telling me, I love these guys. It's a smart team. I ping those guys on certain tokens like when we've seen real blood, right? And like stuff like Alpha even, or Thorchain or whatever. When I know guys who really dig into DeFi and they're doing the research, they know everybody, they know what's going on. I ping them and I'm like, how do you feel about it right now? I want to take their temperature, and if they're still telling me, dude, nothing's changed, like talk to the team yesterday, whatever, this is fucking rock solid, like that's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear like waffling from those guys after we took a drawdown, and that's also difficult because you never know what kind of condition and what kind of period you're going to find that person into. You might text him at the absolute wrong time, or he's in a bad mood, or his wife just fucking snapped at him for something bullshit. So you also have to take that into consideration. But I want to see what the people who have always been like the big proponents, what are they saying? And I'll tell you, across the board, it was like super positive. I'm buying more, or yeah, dude, this is a steal, or nothing's changed. Just
nothing's changed. Yeah, the price has changed, and if you're just looking from the outside in, and frankly, a lot of the money that's in this market, a lot of the participants in this market, they're here because number go up. And when number stops going up, they lose all conviction. They don't know what's going on. They'll take the loss. That's the nature of the market, right? Moving money from one hand to the other. But if you look at it from a development point of view, pre-sales, new projects, founders, like things are still extremely hot. What is it now? 200 projects plus building on Solana. That's all going to stop because number go down for a week. Like what I'm looking at now, and we've seen it on about the last 4 charts we've looked at, is we've dipped into the reload zone on every high time frame. And whether we've bounced straight back out of it like we did with a few of the bigger names, or we're now just kind of sunk sitting in there, this is where I look to buy. I mean, it's not like this moment, this exact second is a buy signal, but this is the part of the chart. This is the part of the valuation process as it grinds higher. This is where I want to be a bull. This is, like I'm not changing my tune because it cooled off a bit. But I still have long setups, and I'm going to wait for them to come in. And a lot of that's going to have to do with, being patient here through this chop and waiting for the buy volume to step in. Look at, interestingly, the bears, the buy volume on Alpha is not looking as bad.
Yeah, no, I mean.
So this is probably a really good time to be shortlisting.
Yeah.
What are you shortlisting? I mean, we know a lot of your favorites. Are you still in Atom? You looking at Atom, licking your chops, or what?
Yeah, no, I dabbled. I added a little bit there. I added to Sushi low. I mean, that thing to me was somewhat crowded, and I think people got washed out on some liquidations, which drove it down to $6. I also think that, and comes into the mental aspect of this. Sushi has 3 more months or 4 more months of a little heavier inflation. So you have to start to think, well, how, if we're in a bear, right, and people just got rinsed, if stuff's getting unlocked in Sushi, does that mean it's going to have a greater effect and it might be a little more pressure than other stuff that doesn't have these unlocks? It might. I mean, unlocks, they act differently in super bull than when you're in kind of choppy bear. People might want to raise cash and get into other stuff. So that kind of came into my mind. I love Sushi here, but if we sit in this zone, are people just going to dump their unlocks immediately? I love Sushi still. I still think, I'm bullish. I bought some more, but like one that I missed out on, that a big chunk of the leg higher was Thorchain, was Rune, and I picked some of that.
Yeah, I keep hearing about that. I never did get any, so that's one that I'd like to have on my short list
I
as
picked
well.
some of that up.
Sick.
It had a nasty dump. That was another one I felt was kind of over subscribed. It had a little too much ownership of people who maybe were a little over their skis on leverage. That thing got really rinsed. Like a lot on Binance too, just fucking rinsed. I picked a little bit of that up.
Yeah.
That's had some decent buyback. Trying to think about what else.
I mean, it's up 100% off the low.
Yeah, but
it's crazy.
Should it have been down as much as it? How much was it off the high? Like it got torched.
Yeah, 70, I would guess. 71, yeah, 72.
It's.
It had a lot of shill power behind it, and like on Twitter for months, I felt like I was just hearing about Rune, and I was like, "What the hell's Rune? It's up too high, I can't buy it." And now it did stab into the zone again. Too many things to look at on Sunday. I kind of focused on a couple, but yeah, I mean, this is the time to watch this buyback. Say, okay, so there's a ton of underlying bid on this thing, and now when this consolidation plays out, that's going to be the dip I'm looking at, because just like it wasn't going to go straight down, it's certainly, I would say, most likely not.
I'll tell you one thing that almost like pains me to look at, but I've been looking at it, and Nick Coate, a guy that we love, who's a great chartist analyst, we had the same thinking and tweeted something about it similarly before the dump, and it was the Ripple chart. It was XRP, and I do have this feeling about Ripple. The SEC thing is out there. I honestly don't think. I think there's going to be a settlement. I think that there's going to be a resolution to this SEC thing that's going to be perceived as positive for Ripple. To me, I think the probability of that happening might be a little higher than 50-50. And I do believe that in this market we're in, where something like that happens and Ripple gets the relistings and the Coinbase and all that stuff, that with their cash position, I think you could see some asymmetric payouts. And I pulled up the XRP bull token chart, and for some reason it looked to me like a risk reward play that looked asymmetric. And I've never messed with these leverage tokens at all, I'll be honest with you. I don't get them enough. There's this mechanism in there.
Yeah, they're a little weird.
But to me, like, I'm thinking, all right, I can't buy any futures on anything. Like, I'm not going to fuck with it. I'm not going to just buy the spot, even though I could. But I'm like, what if? Like, if it's 50-50 or even slightly above, what if there is a positive result to this lawsuit? And they settle, and it's like, not material, and they get relisted. What could possibly happen to Ripple? Where could it possibly go? And I saw this XRP bull token chart. I'm like, holy shit, this could potentially moon. And I do love lotto tickets like that when it comes to like optionality and options.
My problem with those, and you'd have to go on, I think they're even different too, like depending on where you buy them. The bull tokens on one exchange, like Binance versus FTX, they're a little different. I actually did do some buying of the bull token on FTX, the Bitcoin one. My take on them, though, is that they're good if you expect a move coming, like fairly shorter term, and you're just like, this is going to have a little extra gas. But if you zoom out on a lot of those tokens and look at them, they have a decay factor. They just never go back to a certain high. They just are always in a form of sort of slow decay. And you can see that on things like, let's see, the bear shit. Bear shit is one somebody said, oh, this one looks bullish. And that would be if you're betting against shitcoins in the coming months. But we have to zoom in so much. It's ridiculous. So obviously today it's going down. So here's why I passed on it. And I'll finally find a way to look at it. So it was looking decent as things were getting a little bearish. And it was like, oh, they put in a little W. Is this going to go up? It's making new lows, go figure. But look, this is why I lost it. It's trading at like a 9,000th of a cent right now. But if you just go back to when it started and look out, it's done nothing but go down. And it's not just because it's a bull market. I mean, even when they were good, right? Just short term.
Yeah.
And then they'll just decay, and we're still not even close to getting back. I think this thing used to trade for thousands of dollars. Like,
yeah, I honestly,
it's crazy. Like, look at this. It just keeps going.
Well, this is seriously. I think
know.
there's a different mechanism, and I could be wrong, between a bear leverage token and a bull leverage token, because of the amount of like, where a bear token can go, right? It can go to zero. Like if you're bearish, it's just like. You might be right, but to me, there's just a little difference, because it's almost like a call and a put, right? A call has unlimited upside. A put, where it can go, like it caps it at zero. So, listen, I've never fucked with it.
Yeah, that's a good point. No, that's a good point. I think there's probably an opposite.
But like
mechanism there.
XRP bull, and I actually went in. They're ERC20 tokens. You can find them places. So I bought a few of those. We'll see. This is literally me playing the lottery. I'm not a Ripple fan at all, to be honest with you. But I can't buy the futures or anything like that right now. So something tells me that it's going to be looked on as a win for them, and who fucking knows? I mean, look at GameStop, right? That thing is $300 or whatever it is. Today they announced that they're launching an NFT platform on Ethereum, and this is like a fucking bankrupt like video game brick and mortar seller, and all of a sudden the thing is like, the Cinderella story. So,
I talked that shit, but I did pick up some bull token on the weekend, and I joked on Twitter. I said, like, I'm buying Bitcoin spot, okay, but I also picked up some bull tokens. Why? Because they're cheaper and I can get more of them, and that was it. And I did manage to pick up a couple at 59. That was sort of my Sunday like Hxro bid, and we'll see. They didn't bounce as hard as I wanted, but they're almost double. It's at 94. It's not nothing. Yeah, I sold a couple today. I woke up, I saw this little move. I was like, fuck it, I'll take some off. But that's a 54%er. We'll take it. That's higher than Bitcoin went.
How about
Yeah, no, can't hate it. But do I get all this back, right? Like if Bitcoin goes back up to highs, do I get all this? Because that's what I was originally looking at. I was like, fuck, I can pick these up at 5K. And if Bitcoin goes back to the highs, I'm looking at like a $40,000 token, 50,000. Like that's sort of why I'm in the trade. I just don't know if it gets all that back, if it has a decay or not. So if it doesn't move up here in the next week, I'll probably keep trimming those. But I've got a few.
And that's kind of, I think we're looking at it a little bit kind of like degenerate gamblers on these lotto tickets, because that's literally what I saw, and I honestly mistakenly clicked on the XRP bull just looking at prices on FTX. I mean, pull up the XRP bull, because what I was looking at was the same thing you just pointed out, and I'm like, all right, so if this thing does come out and it goes to $2 or it goes to $3, what's going to happen to this token? And then I start to go look back at levels and stuff.
Yeah.
Who fucking knows?
Yeah, this is an hourly. So just even getting back to like XRP's, recent highs would be like thousands and thousands of percent, right? And that's the lotto ticket aspect. I think I like your analogy there.
Totally. Expect to lose everything on this thing, but let's just say you can't buy futures on it, so you can't have any leverage on it, or you can't buy options. To me, this is the closest thing to an option or optionality that has just crazy convexity on Ripple. If the event happens, right? You can maybe even find somewhere to bet against it too. I mean, this is the sort of like convex position that, I don't know. It's good to have a little skin in the game on something like this, but who knows?
Little punts. And in some ways I did it because, just say, okay, I have X cash in my portfolio. I want to be long on Bitcoin. I don't really want to look at leverage right now and be thinking about funding and all these liquidations going crazy. I'm going to stay away for a bit, and I want to buy some spot, but I don't want to be out of cash. I want to preserve that cash because it feels good to have that dry powder. Oh, look at that! I can get some kind of levered up exposure to this asset by only putting in a smaller amount, and that's sort of how I was thinking about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, even up to this like recent breakdown level on XRP is like 800% on this token. So like you said, expect it to go to zero because there is some factor of decay. I will go and reread their page on it. They have a really good page on it. I did do some reading on it like way back when I first saw them, but admittedly can't sit here and kind of break it down for how it works for people. But it's a punt. It's a little punt because I'm bullish on Bitcoin short term this week, thinking we're going to get up into the 47 area before we have the real debate. It's going to be an exciting month or two. Exciting for me because we're in reload zones all over the friggin' board. So if I am a bull, still am. We're in a bull market. I still think we are. Until that debate is settled up in some kind of short reload zone, I'm in heaven right now with all the reload zone dips that I'm seeing. So,
and if you're watching here,
I'll tell you,
smash that like button
Yeah.
for us. I mean, the YouTube algo, it responds favorably to that. So smash.
Yeah, I'll be back.
Subscribe.
We are gonna wrap up here, guys. We're getting on to the hour and 40-minute mark. One thing I want to touch on just before we go that I'm watching very closely is this hash ribbon. Sorry, I psyched out the producer there. I'm looking at this hash ribbons indicator, which has to do with like miners and I don't know, capitulation and all this. I don't want to get into exactly what goes into it because I don't know. I do know this. Looking back historically, it has been one of the most reliable indicators on Bitcoin price. And so I noticed it the other day. Sometimes, during crazy moments in the market, I'll go pull up old things like this that I don't really stare at every day. And it fired a lot of buy signals last year. It fired one before March. Okay, womp womp, didn't work out so well. Bit of a black swan. As soon as that cleared up, though, we were back on track. It fired another one April 20th. So I'm watching this again because it basically has these moving averages. I'm sure has something to do with hash rate and whatever else on-chain stuff. Well, it just crossed bearish, which kind of starts it getting ready for its next buy signal. Those can take months to play out. I think one through one of the bear markets was like 6 months. But I'm watching it closely. I don't know what it means and what it needs to get its next buy signal, but trust me, when that fires, even though sometimes it fires and still takes months for the price to move, I mean, it's going to be a big signal, and that's what I'm watching for. So it seems like it's cocked back and ready to go. We'll see how that ages over the next few months. Definitely going to be watching this one closely. So that's all I have to say about that very half-assed lesson at attempting to explain hash ribbons. Admittedly, a little bit beyond my pay grade as a trader, but it's a signal, and when it comes, I have an alert set. I'll let you guys know, whatever it's going to mean.
Messy. I know
I'll hit back to
been
studio
pretty talkative
here.
lately. What do you got for closing thoughts, Messy?
Closing thoughts are, at least moving forward for me. I've made a lot in this market. I am going to, at what I consider to be the possibility for a complacency bounce, I am going to begin thinking about ways to maybe protect my downside a little more. One of those ways would be to utilize AMM-based positions, which will actually mute your up and downside. One of the interesting things about an AMM position as well is that, if the market does have a significant dip, you can pull your LP at the bottom and use what cash is left to buy back in those assets that you were bullish on, that you were exposed to. So that is one thing that I am considering, and another thing moving forward, I want to get back to the old me and be more about my rotations and less of a bag holder. Now, it's like a more active portfolio management strategy. But in the past, that's what I've been really successful with. So, I did want to focus on, still a bit of diversification while not being too diversified at the same time. Because if you're too diversified, you may as well just hold the index. Looking for those strong DeFi projects and really just trying to push forward with a bullish attitude, but also with the understanding that things can get ugly quick. I mean, this was definitely a wake-up call for me. So, for everybody that's listening, I'll definitely be sharing those. There's a guy I follow on Twitter. I forget his last name, Noah something, but he's done extensive research and work on these AMM-based positions, which help to mute that downside and help to mute the volatility of your portfolio a little bit. And they can be a really, really useful tool. So for everybody that's watching right now, I would encourage you to be thinking about moving forward. Not only, hey, how can we be a full bull tard? How can we have this exposure to this market and make a shit ton of money? But also, moving forward, how do I position myself to where, I am capitalizing on all of these opportunities and also protecting, what I've already made. It's something that's important to me that I'm going to be spending more time on.
Beauty. All right. Well, somebody asked if my ID bag or said it's looking heavy. It is. It's got a nice little push today, actually. Holy shit. It hit 64 cents off a low of 12. I'm not actively trading it. I've been building a position perhaps too aggressively on the way down. Now just holding on. I mean, I think 3 to 6 months was my outlook minimum. I'm now looking at 6 to 9 months. But, guys, as cliche as it sounds, I am in that one for the tech, the infrastructure they've built. I see KYC regulation all over the world. They're partnered with FTX. They're legit. I'm not worried about them at all, and I'm not too worried about this market. And the way I can stay unworried is by managing risk the whole way through. In fact, I'm happy to announce that I officially paid off the rest of the debt in my household this weekend. And it's not with something I took out of the market, but on this dip, I had some cash in the bank from earlier in the year, and I thought, you know what? I want this off my lady's head. Love my life. She's carrying my child with her as we speak. She had a little student debt left over, so we crushed that today. Fuck the banks. Let's go.
I love it.
And that's it. That's all from me. Really happy to be here with you guys. Thanks for joining us today on DeltaFi. It's a little weird over here with so far from you guys without Dan. But have a wonderful, wonderful week, guys. Play from strength, all the good stuff. And we're in reload zones. So we're going to watch this chop. We're going to see if we can get some buy volume back into the chart. I think it'll take a few weeks, but we'll be here watching for it. So until next time, guys, whatever you do, always play from a position of strength.
Thanks, guys.